your sister put you out of the apartment, and according to you, she kept some of your property and disposed of your property, and you don't have it anymore, and you're suing her for, I think, $3,000 for the value of the property. Your sister says you left the property there. She doesn't have the property. She was forced to move out of the apartment when you left. She doesn't know what happened to it. At least she doesn't have it. And she says that you actually owe her money. You owe her money because you didn't pay part of rent that you should have paid. And in addition, you stole her child's Xbox and pawned it for money. She wants money for that. Is this your mother?
Yes, it is.
When did you move in with your sister and why?
When? I'd say the first week in November.
Why?
To help her and her kids out.
Explain that to me.
She was working a night shift at a factory, and she asked me to watch her kids while she worked, and I said, okay. That was the agreement. No rent, no nothing was involved. As long as I stay there with her kids, that's fine.
Who moved in? You alone?
Well, with my two other girls. I have two girls.
So what you're telling me is you weren't supposed to pay any rent?
Exactly.
Why?
As long as I watched her kids while she worked.
Just a minute. Weren't you working?
No, not at the time. She said, you know, when you can, find a job.
That's interesting. So she worked at night?
Yes.
And you slept while she worked?
Watched her kids and my kids while she worked.
Well, what were her hours of working?
5 o'clock in the evening till 3:30 in the morning.
So I assume at some point you went to sleep.
Well, yeah.
You weren't watching the children 3:30 in the morning?
No.
And how old are her boys?
Ashton is 6 and Tyler is 4, I believe.
And your children?
Mackenzie is 5 and Alyssa is 3.
So they're about the same age?
Yes.
And when did you move out?
She kicked me out the night before Thanksgiving.
So you were there for less than a month. What happened?
We went to a local bar together with her boyfriend, and somehow it became of a fight. She came up to me, started calling me obnoxious names. She pushed me into a DJ, and she told me to get my crap out. Other words were said. And I had to give her the key. It was her key. She was on the lease. I wasn't. I gave her the key. I tried to go back that night. She wouldn't let me have my things. The next day, I was with my other sister, Rebecca. She took me over there. I tried to get my things. She wouldn't let me.
What things?
My girls' brand new beds. I went out and bought them.
Okay. Your daughter's beds?
Yes.
What else was there?
My girls' clothes.
What else?
Just little items, but I don't really care about them.
Okay. Your children's beds and their clothes?
Yes.
You took none of your children's clothes?
She wouldn't let me in. I couldn't.
Did you ever go back to get the children's clothes?
I tried. I called the police.
Oh, did you ever get them?
No.
And when did your sister, to the best of your knowledge, move out of the apartment? When did you move out of the apartment?
When did I? The 1st of December.
When you moved out of the apartment, where were the children's beds?
The children's beds, they came with me, ma'am.
Yes. The girls' beds?
We had a verbal agreement.
Just a second.
Okay.
So the girls' beds came with you?
Yes, they did.
And the girls' clothes?
The girls' clothes. I took them to my sister Rebecca's house, and my sister Brenda picked them up.
And the beds you took with you?
Yes.
Why did you take the beds with you?
Her boyfriend at the time, his brother TJ asked if he could use the Xbox of my boys.
I'm talking about the beds.
Why? Yes, I'm getting to that. I took those because she stole my kids' Xbox and pawned it off. Her husband, Sean, told me that she went to his house and told him that she got $150 out of it. And me and her had an agreement.
I don't even talk to Sean.
Shh, Miss Rhodes. Miss Rhodes.
Me and Brenda, we agreed. We had a verbal agreement that I could keep the beds for compensation of the Xbox. That was the agreement we had together.
I don't think so.
No, Miss Rhodes, I don't want you to speak now, okay?
All right.
Good. Miss Lullenberg, do you take any medication?
Do I? No. Yeah. I'm pregnant.
Hmm?
I don't take no medication. Never in my life.
I'm going to read you something.
Okay.
And this something is a sworn statement that you made to the court.
Okay.
And you say, I do not have my sister's daughter's beds or her clothes. All of her belongings were there when I left. And I know my landlord had no use for them either. In any case, my parents bought those beds for her for $200. I have sons, so I have no use for girls' clothing, and I have no idea how she came up with $3,000. So when you swore to this affidavit, you swore to the fact that when you left the apartment December 1st, the beds were there. Listen to me.
Okay.
Now you're telling me that you took the beds because you had an agreement with your sister that the beds were going to be yours. So what happens is, Miss Lullenberg, what you have to do is you have to tell the truth all the time so that you don't have to keep making up stories as you go. Do you understand?
Yes.
When somebody asks you to fill out an affidavit, and with the affidavit it says, I, Jessica Lullenberg, being duly sworn, deposes and says, and you say in this affidavit that you sign that I left the beds in the apartment when I moved out. That's what you said. You didn't say anything about taking them with you, about an agreement with the Xbox. You didn't say anything about it. You said I left them there when I moved out. The problem is you forgot. You forgot the story that you told.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Rhodes says her sister, Jessica Lullenberg, owes for the return of her children's beds and their clothes. Jessica claims Brenda pawned her son's Xbox.
Okay. How much did you pay for the beds?
$320 cash.
Show me. Great. Now, you want to tell me why she owes you for rent and the value of the Xbox. Go ahead. That's your counterclaim.
We made an agreement when she moved in that she would try to get a job. She lived approximately a month with me, 4 weeks. I was the only one
No,
working.
she didn't live a month. She lived there less than 3 weeks.
Well,
It was about 2.5.
Shh. Miss Rhodes, do
I'm
I look like
sorry.
I need any help from you?
No.
It was approximately, well, about a month, ma'am.
No, it wasn't a month. It wasn't a month. She
Well,
moved-
what I came up with was,
Well, is that the same thing that you came up with when you couldn't figure out what happened to the beds? She moved out Thanksgiving. That's still in the month of November.
Thanksgiving Day. The day of Thanksgiving, I told her to come get her belongings, that she's out of my house.
Right.
And that was at my parents' home.
Right. So, she said she was going to try to get a job. And for the few weeks that she was there, she did not get a job. So?
And everything was in my name. My father loaned me the $700, and I paid the rent, and I paid $255 for the NIPSCO, and I paid for the water, which was $30, and I have all this right there.
She didn't get a job. You had no agreement. You just said to me, you told her, move in with me and try to get a job. She didn't get a job in the 2.5 weeks
she
that she
didn't
lived
pay
there.
any bills. She didn't try.
That wasn't your agreement. That wasn't your agreement, Miss Lullenberg. Your agreement was not that she was going to pay a certain amount of money every month, whether or not she had a job. Your agreement was that she was going to be there, according to you, that she was going to stay there with you and try to get a job, and when she got a job,
Right.
you were going to work out a payment schedule.
Exactly.
She didn't get a job in
But
the
she-
2.5 weeks that she was there, so she doesn't owe you any money for bills. Now, let's get to the Xbox.
I have a police report
Let me see it.
that I...
All right. Without resorting to any hearsay, madam, let us assume that your son had an Xbox and games, and your son no longer has it, the Xbox and games. What makes you think that your sister, what proof do you have?
What proof I have it?
Do you have that your sister took
A
the
statement from TJ.
I don't take statements, madam. Statements are hearsay.
Okay.
What proof do you have that your sister...
What proof? None.
Good.
I should have brought her
Good.
husband.
Well, then you should have brought somebody who could testify with regard to the Xbox. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe your sister for the beds, which you finally acknowledge that you did in fact take and are using $320, which is the cost of the beds.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You're my family, but that's it. That's as far as it goes.
She's evil.
I don't want nothing to do with them.
She owes me and her dad money. I got another daughter that owes us money. No,
Family never works out.
I have got some evil daughters.
We could go on and on and on all day of all the things they've done to me, and them being family. It's sad.
It ain't gonna change, but, you know, I'd like it to, but
Never, ever, ever, ever. I don't ever want to see them again.
Shannon's company manager, Daniel Cruz, is suing his ex-fiancée, Shannon Kelly, for unpaid loans and for damaging his car in a drunken rage.
Yeah, it's case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Cruz versus Kelly. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Cruz, Miss Kelly was your former fiancée.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, you believe that she owes you some money for some loans that were made a year ago by you.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, more recently, that she had a hissy fit about something and threw a potted plant at your car, causing some damage.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly says that while you were generous to her over the course of your relationship, there were never any loans, and she has no clue as to what you're talking about with regard to damaging your car. Who is this person, Ms. Kelly?
This is my boyfriend now.
Does he have any particular knowledge of this case?
He does. He
About
was, what? Basically, when we had broken off the engagement, Dan had become very upset with the whole thing, and he had come to my house making threats, trying to get into my house, and he was there. And
well, that has nothing to do with this case.
Right. So basically,
Basically, he's just here as eye candy.
Whatever.
What's the matter? Isn't that right?
I candy.
All right. When were you and Miss Kelly engaged?
We were engaged on January 5th, 2004.
For how long?
We were engaged until February 20th of 2004.
And when were these loans, Mr. Cruz?
Loans were done at various times throughout the relationship.
Mr. Cruz, let's get to the biggies.
Sure.
Let's try this. Nothing under $100. I have a $100 threshold that I'm going to hear, sir.
I guarantee there's nothing under $100, Your Honor.
Perfect.
Okay.
Give me the date. Give me what it was for.
Okay. The first one, Your Honor, was for rent that I paid for in May of 2003.
And how much was that,
That
sir?
was for $400.
Tell me the conversation that took place.
The conversation?
Yes.
Okay. I asked her, I said, do you have the money for the rent? And she said she did not have the money for the rent. And she asked if I could front it for her. I said, sure, I'd be willing to do that, but you're going to have to pay me back.
Okay. Now, do you remember that May of 2003?
I did not receive my check through the mail yet, and he did propose to, like, not lend me the money, but to pay for my portion of it.
Okay. Miss Kelly, let's stop there. You say your check didn't come in the mail.
Right.
What check are we talking about?
My disability check.
How much did you get from disability?
I get about $1,000 a month.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mentally have stress, a lot of stress. Basically, I was fired from a previous job for sexual harassment, and from that, it caused me a lot of damage. And so I went to see, I was going to fight against them and sue them.
All right, so you received Social Security disability? Do you still?
Actually, no. As of a few weeks ago, no.
Now, your check hadn't arrived yet. So you must have said to Mr. Cruz, my check hasn't come yet. My check hasn't come yet. Can you front the money for me?
I don't even think I went as far as asking him that. It was, you know, he paid for a lot of things for me.
No, I don't want to hear a lot of things. Listen, I'm a very organized person. We're talking about May of 2003
Did I ask him?
and your rent. And your rent. So if you were accustomed to paying your rent out of your disability check and your check was late, the common sense would be, can you pay the rent, and when my check comes, I'll give it back to you. That's common sense. I mean, that's what one would think of what was said.
Correct.
Right. And?
And
he paid the $400, your share of the rent. Did you ever get your check?
yeah,
Did you give him back the $400?
I've tried, and he would not accept it because he said that he didn't want it.
Okay. Now, when was the next loan you made to her, sir?
December of 2003, I loaned her money for a couple of sets of car repairs, actually. First repair was December 18th of 2003. That was for $227.
Right.
The other one was December 20th, 2003. That was for $180.
Any other loans, sir?
In January 2004, there was money that I loaned her for medical expenses. I had gotten back from a cruise, okay, so I took her to the urgent care. The cost for that was $237. She did not have the money to pay it. I told her once again I would loan her the money for the $237, but then she'd have to pay me back for that as well.
And those are the loans you're talking about?
There's also one more loan. I'm sorry, I neglected to bring it up. It was in August of 2003. It was also for repairs for her car. Okay, and that was for $281.68.
And you want to tell me about the damage to your car, sir?
January 19, 2004, I was on my way to work. First Monday back from the cruise. On the way to work, I was rear-ended by a lady. At the time, the car was still drivable, okay, but I knew I was going to have to take it into the shop, but knowing that it was going to be in there for at least a week or so, I didn't take it right away. January 23rd, she and I had an argument. She got upset with me. She went outside. My car was parked in front of her house. She took a potted plant. She broke it on my car. Now, I had made an insurance claim on the damage that the other lady caused me. However, I didn't make an insurance claim on what she had caused because I didn't want there to be any type of legal recourse against her as far as
you were
criminal.
engaged.
Right.
And you stayed engaged for another month.
That's correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Cruz says ex-fiancée Shannon Kelly owes for unpaid loans and for smashing a potted plant on top of his car.
Okay, let's hear about the potted plant, madam.
I don't know what he's talking about, actually. We fought all the time.
So you mean he's making this story up?
Or if somebody else did it, he never
No.
There's, I don't know what he's...
All right. Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, that this is not true. With the car repairs, he called me and said that he had a surprise for me, that he had recovered some funds that he wasn't aware of and that he wanted to get my car out. And I said, no, I didn't want to. I'd rather pay for it myself, and he insisted. Okay, he decided to do that. When I did get my check, again, I did give him back $200 because I didn't want anything from him.
Why didn't you want anything from him?
Because he would use it against me and throw it up to me and make me feel terrible in fights.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a branch manager for a finance company.
Are you currently employed, Miss Kelly?
No.
And how do you support yourself, on disability?
I was up until recently, so now I'm going to find a job.
Do you live with this gentleman here?
Yes, I do.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay. Here's your problem, Mr. Cruz. Of the 5 loans that you've made to her over the course of a 6 or 7 month period, she had not made any payments. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's not a loan. That's what you give to your girlfriend. I find that it's unreasonable to believe that if, in fact, this engagement came to fruition and developed into a marriage, that we wouldn't be standing here today. Right?
Well, that's...
Not well.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I'm telling you that if you and Miss Kelly married, we would not be standing here today. You're angry. She didn't give you a lot of money. You gave her a lot of money. I mean, altogether, it doesn't amount to a whole lot of money over the course of a relationship that spanned a couple of years. But those aren't loans. Loans get repaid. Even marginally, they get repaid. And anybody who's... You're in finance?
Yes.
Doesn't loan more money when the first loan hasn't been paid. And doesn't loan money for a third time when the first 2 loans haven't been paid. And doesn't loan money for the 4th time when the first 3 loans haven't been paid. Because if you do that, you're soon going to be out of business. Unless you're operating from your heart. Because you're involved in a relationship. And then it no longer becomes an arm's length contract. It becomes a situation where, well, if the relationship works out, so let's go over. But if it doesn't, I don't want to be out this money. So, Mr. Cruz, get over it. Let me see pictures of the car where she dropped the potted plant. What's in that box?
Unfortunately, Your Honor, I don't have pictures, okay? And the reason being for that is because she called me the next day. She apologized to me for doing it. And when I went to her house, I showed her what she had done to the car. She didn't realize it. And she looked at it, she said, I'm sorry. She said, but you are lucky. I meant to put it through your windshield. And I said, well, if you put it through the windshield, it probably would have cost less. I don't have pictures, but I do have the pieces of the pot that she broke on it. That's what's in the box.
You think, sir, that that I'm going to look at the pieces of the pot without pictures of the car? Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
And she called you up and she apologized. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Cruz. Between the 23rd of January, when she caused this damage to your car, is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. And February 20th of 2004, you were in fact engaged. Is that right?
Yes.
Were you intimate during that period?
Yes.
You forgave her. You forgave her, sir. She feels as if you forgave her. I feel as if you forgave her. You got to put a period and say, I'm moving on. And whatever money it was, it's a cheap lesson. And I'm very, very lucky that I didn't hook my wagon to this star, which would have caused you in the long run in your life, Mr. Cruz, far greater damage. You could have done the absolutely unthinkable and stupid thing to have married this lady.
True.
Right?
Right? That's true.
Instead, this gentleman's going to marry her. That's going to be his problem.
Let him deal with it.
Right? Right.
Yeah, let him deal with it.
That's all. Good luck, sir.
Yep.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's getting hers now. I mean, you can see with what she's with and what she's doing now, which is nothing, and what she'll always become in her life is nothing.
Basically, he just wants to, demolish whatever life that I do have.
She was cheating on me with the gentleman she brought into the courtroom today.
He was tried to commit suicide a couple times over me. He even was put into the hospital for 4 days in the mental institution for throwing me across the room and bruising my table.
Look out for freeloaders like this one over here. She's going to cost you a lot of money, cost you a lot of heartache, and she laughs over here, but I'm going to get the last laugh when I see what her life has become.
His ex-fiancée, insurance broker Stephanie Martell, for the return of an engagement ring and for stealing from his bank account while he was in jail.
Your Honor, this is case number 86 on the calendar in the matter of Balzolari versus Martell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Balzolari, you and the defendant were engaged to be married and lived together.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, you were incarcerated for a period of time, a drug-related charge, and then went into rehab. And it is your claim that during that period of time, Miss Martell cleaned you out, took your property, took your money, broke up, and she won't return a very expensive engagement ring as well. Miss Martell said all of that money was used to pay your bills, to pay for things for you while you were incarcerated, and she had to sell the engagement ring in order to pay those bills. Right?
Right.
Okay. When did you become engaged?
Your Honor, that was approximately 4/20. I'd purchased the ring. Here's a picture and a receipt. It was shortly after that we became engaged. And,
April 20th.
Yes, somewhere around that time.
Of what year?
02.
When was the wedding supposed to take place?
There was no
Morse?
date set.
What were you waiting for?
I don't know. For us both to agree on a certain date and,